Hello, this is Richard from TrackTrail. Today I'm going to show you how to customize your expeditions. We've got 3 levels of customization. I'm going to show you the basics. Then I'm also going to demonstrate how to go on to the next level, which is introducing routes and colors. And finally, I'll go on to number 3, which is timing and ETAs for more advanced features. But let's deal with the basics first, how to get your trackers basically up and running. So if you log into your TrackTrail control panel, you'll see the usual menus at the top, orders and events. Some of you may see a trackers menu depending on the type of account. But if you go into your events menu, choose from your drop down either your current or forthcoming events. In this case, I'm going to leave it as current and look at an event that's in progress. You'll see here the names of your events, the little icon here which will actually load your event from a viewer's perspective, the dates and times it takes place, and there's a couple of icons here. One of them is the edit, which we're going to go into. One of them is to edit the participants, which we'll go into a little later. And finally, this icon at the end is to share the link. So if you wanted to share this link with other people via email or SMS or WhatsApp, depending on what device you're using, that's what this icon would do. Let's go and edit the event and show you some customization. So if I go into this event right now, this is called Norfolk Relay. Now, if you go into this, you'll see there's some basic things set up here, which is the name of the event and this what's called a slug, which basically forms the URL. So when you go onto your event, it will say track.trail.live and it will give you the name of the event there. You'll be able to modify the start date and start time. All that does is determine the span of which the trackers will appear on the map. For example, you could choose to end this at 8 o'clock this evening, so the trackers would vanish from the map at 8 o'clock, and that way you perhaps wouldn't inadvertently leave trackers switched on and be following people home. So you can adjust the start and end time there, and you can set a password, which you may want to do. And if you do that, everybody who you give the URL to will be prompted to enter a password. The checkpoint radius I'm going to leave for the time being, and we'll come back to that later on. And now the available map providers, depending on which map options you purchased, you may see the Google Maps, Street Maps, and you may see the Ordnance Survey. If you didn't choose the OS, as in this case, this one will be grayed out, so you wouldn't be able to choose it. You can choose which is the default map, and that means which one is loaded when you first load the screen. In this case, I'm going to choose OpenStreetMap. I'm going to leave this this option here for now. Again, we'll leave this one and go on to this one. In here, you can enter up to 3 telephone numbers, one in each box, for who would receive an SMS message in the event that one of the trackers had decided to push the SOS button. So let's have a quick recap of that there. If we want to edit our event, as for the basics, you would change the name, potentially change the start times, add a password, and you could add some emergency contacts. And then you would be up and running. So I'm going to click update on that to return back to the previous page. And then the Norfolk Relay is listed down there. Now, if I was to go back in, you can either view this one or view this one. It'll take you into the participants. So I'm going to take you in via the longer route. So if I click down here and go right the way through to participants, this icon here achieves exactly the same as that one on the previous page. And it takes you in to view your participants or your trackers. In this particular event, which is the Norfolk Relay, we have got 2 participants. So we've got tracker 775 and tracker 3035. And as default, you will usually find that these are called Group 1 and Group 2, and they would have bib or flag numbers 1 and flag number 2. In this case, these have been customized and they've been given a name, the Norfolk Gazelles and Gazelles. So this is where you can make the changes to those. So from a basics perspective, that covers everything. All you would do is potentially just go into your event, decide if you want a password or not, add some SOS numbers, and then simply change the name of the group, group 1, group 2, alpha, beta, and then you can pick a flag number for them if you don't wish to use the 1 or 2 defaults. And that covers the basics. So at this point in time, you could turn your trackers on and they will work immediately and they would appear using the information that you've seen. Now let me go on and view that expedition right now. So if I view that, if we click on here, we will see this is our expedition that's in progress at the moment. If I click on the participants list here, there we'll see number 1, the gazelles, and number 2, the gazelles. And at this point in time, we will conclude the basics and then we'll move on to routes and colors. So you don't have to do this next part. This is entirely optional, but if you want to take your customization to the next level, you could start looking at adding routes or colors. How do you achieve that? Okay, let's go on to back onto your event and edit the event again. And now we're going to look at adding a route. Now, this section here, called routes or checkpoints, is where you can import GPX files. What are those? Well, if you use OS Maps Online or ETAs or something similar, when you create a route, that will produce a GPX file. Now, we've created another video, which we'll link you to go into more detail about that. So I'm not going to go into a lot of explanation there. But basically, once you've created that GPX file, you can import it using this button here. And if you click on Add Route, click on Choose File, you would then browse to the location of your computer that has that GPX file. And once you click Add, it will appear on here. And if you click on the little Edit button, you'll be able to see the name, and this will be picked up automatically from whatever you named it within your application. And then there's a color. So you can click on the color and as you can see, you can change this slider across and pick absolutely anything you want and pick a different color if you want to and assign that, and that will be the color of the route. And I'll show you where that is in a minute. Once you've done that, you will also see the names of any checkpoints. So if your route that you've created has got checkpoints inside it, they will be automatically displayed here, and you can change the name at this point in time if you want to. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about your checkpoints because we've got a completely separate video about creating routes. So at this point in time now, I'm going to go back and I'm now going to view that event again. And you will see that this is that purple route. This is that GPX file, and each one of those checkpoints is shown there. Checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can choose your map type from this corner here, and you can also turn on or off that route, so you can display it or not as the choice, entirely your choice. This is where you select the map types from. So let's say you wanted Mapbox Dark. If you say you're using it at night, there's a useful Mapbox Light, and there's obviously Google Maps and various other ones as well. Now, the other things you can do in terms of customization is you can customize the colors. If you note here that these little flags are different colors, I'll show you how to achieve that. If you go into the little area where you edited the individuals, click on here. As default, all of the trackers will appear. Let's pop back onto the map, actually, just an example. All of these tracker flags would usually appear green when they're moving. There's a little key here at the side. So if a tracker flag is green, then it would be moving. If it would be a little orange status, it means it's not moved for 3 minutes. If it's a light blue color, it means it hasn't sent any information for an hour. And there's also some extra features like SOS off, and if someone has been marked as retired if they were in a race. Now that would those colors would actually encompass the entire color of the flag. Now, because we've customized these have been changed to a different color. So what happens in that instance is, if I drop back in here and show you, you can go along to the color area here, and if I just untick those, and put them back to their defaults, which is what you would see when you first set up your expedition, or it's first set up for you. You'll see that the trackers all appear in green. Everything is green, which means that they're both moving. Now I'm going to go back in and change those to the pink colors, which we've just had. So you click on the little box, click on blue, and click on this little box and click on pink. And then if I go back in and have a look, you'll see what's happened is the overall flag, the circular bit, has changed to be pink and changed to be blue respectively. But what we do is, you see the little arrow which indicates the direction that the tracker is traveling in. We have left that as the status indicator, which is the key. So the green little arrow means that this flag is moving. If that little green arrow underneath the circle was to change to orange, it means that they're not moving, etc. So we've managed to combine both a way of customizing the flags, as well as still retaining the very useful at a glance color of the arrow to see if the person is moving, not moving, in an SOS, the tracker's been turned off, etc. Okay, so this concludes the second part of this presentation, which is to do with customizing routes and colors. And again, you can leave at this point if that's all you wanted to do. What we've learned at this point in time is how to change the name of trackers and how to put a visual display, which is importing a GPX or many GPXs. You can import as many as you wish onto this route. Now then, I'm going to finally move on to the final advanced part, which is timing and ETAs. What does this involve? Okay, let's drop back onto this route here. So for timing and ETAs, if you wanted to take advantage of that feature, you would have to have checkpoints, usually checkpoints implemented into your GPX. So you can see here in our GPX file, if I go back and edit that, when you created it in your application, it will have automatically imported checkpoint 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And you can see each one is automatically, by our system, given what distance they are at. In this case, it's a particularly long route, and this one's at 26.8 kilometers, 49.1 kilometers, etc., etc., etc. By doing that, our system is very clever, and it will determine what time the tracker will arrive at each of those checkpoints. Let me have a look at that in action. So if I click on this, let's go and see what happens if I view the route now. In this case, if I click on the flag here, it will tell me that the start began at 10:30 for this particular tracker. They are going to reach checkpoint number 2 at 12:35, and they're going to reach checkpoint 3 at 14:19. And it does this based on calculating a speed and distance and time calculation. And of course, it shows the grid reference and other data here. So there is checkpoint 2. So we now know that this particular tracker is going to reach that at 12:35. Now it will adjust this ETA every minute or two. Every time the tracker sends in data, it will recalculate the speed that the tracker is traveling at, and it will change that accordingly. And if I was to click into the participants list and click on any of the individuals here, let me click on number 2 again, you'll see that the details are shown in there, and as I scroll down, it will list all of those checkpoints and again give those ETAs, which is 12:35, 12:19, and it will automatically adjust those all the time. Now let me go on and move up to the other participant. This one started a little earlier today. These started at 6:30, I believe, or thereabouts, and what we have in this case is they've already been through a couple of the checkpoints. So they've just been through checkpoint 3. And so it says checkpoint 3 was reached at 12:10, and the ETA for checkpoint 4 is at 12:58. And again, if I go into the participant sidebar, look at the girls' L's, we will see now that they started at 6:30. They reached the checkpoint number 2 with an average of 16 kilometers per hour. They went to checkpoint 3 and did that with an average of 11 kilometers per hour. So these are actual times that they reached there. And then for every checkpoint they haven't yet reached, you see the word ETA in there. So they've got ETA for this one, as we know, at 10:58. And it does this because the trackers have been assigned to a particular route. How is that achieved? Let's go back and have a look in here. Now, we've only got one route or one GPX file implemented in this case, but for your expedition, you may have one expedition, two expeditions, you did 2 different routes, 10 different routes. And in order to make sure our system knows which route your tracker is assigned to, again, let's go back into this participants area, and we would then look along this list here, and there's an area called route. Now in this case, because there is only one route, there is nothing in there and there's no need to populate that. But if I click on it as an example, if I click on the down arrow, any GPX file would be listed in there. So I could click R&R route and that would assign it to that. If I had a group 2 route or a group 3 route, you would click that on there. And you can also assign a custom start time. Now, at the moment, if I go back a page, the overall start time for this event was 5 o'clock in the morning. However, what we've chosen to do in this case is say that actually, due to a change in circumstances or because the starts were staggered, we've decided to start the girls' L's at 6:30 in the morning and the gazelles at 10:30. Now, when you click on that, it gives you both a date and a time. So if you're running a multi-day expedition, bronze, silver, gold, where it's over multiple days, and you might have different files, you've probably created a day 1 file, a day 2 file, or a day 3 file. What you can then do is go to your route. At the end of day 1 or the beginning of day 2, you would look down the list and find your day 2 route. And then you would go over to your start date and time, and instead of being today, you would change that to tomorrow and choose the appropriate start time, and that way you would continue to enjoy those highly accurate ETA calculations for subsequent days. And that really is all there is to it. The other options in here are mainly related to running events or large events. You can take advantage of one item here. If you click on race admin, it would make the flag transparent. So if you, for example, had some supervisors or assessors and you wanted their flags to appear a little bit different again, perhaps not a color, you could choose them to be a race admin. It will make those transparent. But other than that, so far as a recap, for the basics, let's go back onto the system, and if you look in the basic setup, we're going to change, or we can change the time, maybe a password, you can choose the map type, and finally you would go in and choose the name of the tracker and assign a tracker number if you wish. That's all that's required for the basics. And if you wanted to go into the more advanced, which is the routes and colors, let's go back here. You import a route by clicking on the little plus button and choosing your GPX file. You can then modify its name or color or the names of some of the checkpoints in there. And you can also change the color of your trackers themselves if you don't want them to be the default status color by clicking on here and then ticking the box and choosing a customizable color for that. Finally, if we go into the routes and colors, from routes and colors onto the timings and ETAs, in order to achieve those ETA calculations, you would select which route each tracker is assigned to from your drop-down list, and you would change that each day if they were using a subsequent route, and you would choose the appropriate start date and start time for the tracker. And then you would enjoy all of those wonderful features that you can see on here, where you click on any tracker and it gives you all of those highly accurate calculations for ETAs. So I hope you found that video useful, and we look forward to assisting with your tracking needs in the future. Thank you very much.